Oh, lovely, Mason. That was great. I'm going to give a big round of applause to Gemma, but I didn't want to put you on spot, for winning the coming to the circle race in reverse, which is what we were doing. So, I said we'd be out here 7 minutes. We've got 5 minutes left. That's great. The way this energizer works is someone's in the middle, and person in the middle picks up a pattern, a human pattern that they can notice, and they name that pattern, and it will be something like boots or blue eyes or flanny or hats. And everyone who has that thing switches places with someone else in the circle, and you can't switch with the person next to you, and the last person left in the circle is then in and has to say the next thing, and we'll do a few goes of this. So, and then the secret rule is if someone yells big wind blows, everybody in the circle has to switch places. Confused already? No one gets to say that, no. We'll give it a shot and see if it falls into place for us, all right? Everybody wearing a checkered shirt. Run into the circle and switch places with someone.
So only checkered shirts run in and run back out.
I was supposed to try and this is a musical chairs kind of thing. Right, okay. Scarcity mentality.
Carly actually just wanted to be in the middle.
Just walking, Jade.
Stole somebody's shirt.
It's afternoon. Blue pants. Bluish.
No shoes.
Wait, hang on.
No.
On socks.
Go, Tony.
There's 3 spots over here, there's another one over there.
Very inexact. Hopping around rather than go to the middle of it. Three.
There.
I was there, so you go back there.
Polite round.
I was very polite. Black tights. Oh, big wing flow.
All right. Let's head inside and start the session. Before we dive into the content this afternoon, furthering our talk about learning spaces, I'd invite everybody to settle in their seats, feet on the floor, stuff out of your hands, closing your eyes if you feel comfortable or gently gazing down. And this is an acknowledgement that us as adults come to courses like this with very busy, full lives. And that all of us this week have things we had to do before we arrived here that were possibly stressful, possibly numerous, possibly unfinished. And there are things that we have to do while we're here to keep our businesses going, connect with family, keep things ticking over. So it's a large commitment for people to come here to this course and also for a PDC. Just have a few seconds now to think of all those things that are going on for us. What your story was in the lead up to this course. And the invitation is now to take whatever you'd like to pop in your back pocket and place it there for the duration of the course. If it helps you to package it up in your hands, that's fine. Most people's eyes are closed, no one's watching. Gather up whatever you need to into a little ball and pop it in your back pocket or in your sock or down your shirt, wherever it needs to be, so that you can be present for this course and this group, but also know that that thing's still there when you need to access it. When you're ready, we can open our eyes and bring our attention back to our lovely group. It's much nicer doing that in a circle than this morning. Okay, so we're talking about spaces that improve and inhibit learning today. Who's had an experience of a space that really gets in the way of learning? Yeah? What are you thinking?
Fluoro lights.
Uh-huh.
Looking out the window. Sounds.
Yeah. Yep.
Televisions.
TVs. Yep. Temperature. Low flies. Mosquitoes.
A really uninspired teacher.
Oh yeah. That'll get in the way.
Just like stress in general.
Yeah.
Big cavernous rooms with tiny little groups.
I had a class out there and one of the PDCs, because the wind came up so strongly that the whiteboard blew into my head. The class ended.
Can't remember that was my one.
Yeah, it was a very good class.
Were you okay?
You did really. It was good. It wasn't good class, like, but I can imagine you being like, oh, that was
The wind was just, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It blows away.
Yeah.
that was fun. That whole PTC,
Yeah.
it's like things are really wrong.
Yeah.
Any others?
We teach in the kitchen, which has just got so much visual clutter unrelated to what we're talking about. So I'd like to have somewhere nicer.
I know it's a naughty word, but I still believe it's got its place. If technology doesn't work or the power cords don't reach the room.
I try teaching or learning in a kitchen environment, it's just not safe. It's too many distractions.
Well, and you're too hungry the whole time, right?
Part of the time is learning here next to
It's more of the managing of the weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, potentially.
So what about spaces that enhance learning?
Physically comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not too comfortable.
Natural light.
Natural light, big one.
Being able to hold the subject you're studying.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Pat.
Tranquil.
Yeah.
Being able to have multiple places, so we move outside, into shade, into sun, inside.
I guess if not tranquil, then at least intentional. Like a kitchen doesn't feel like an intentional space. You sort of feel like a place where there's enough cooking food. Like so, an intention place.
My Zoom room's pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. That's hard work, but it does work.
Yeah.
Everyone manages their own space.
Yeah.
Examples of the things that you can see out here. You can see examples of the garden, there's books, there's subject, or posters, something that stimulates that subject.
Relevant.
I've taught on a PDC in Castlemaine that was taught out of the community centre, and it was heavily subsidised, so it was very cheap for people, but we had to teach out of a windowless room. Part-time for 13 weeks. Interesting. And did you have something you wanted to add, Jill?
Oh, a separate space to have a break, to remove yourself from the learning environment, to just decompress, think about it, and then come back in again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
same
point.
break space. Free! Free! Yeah.
Spaces.
You'll put up with quite a lot and it's free.
You will.
I have one, just something I guess the first impression or the first, how do you feel when you enter this space? Whether you feel welcomed, whether it's chaotic, just whatever the initial impression is, that puts you at ease rather than puts you on the back foot as a learner.
Yeah, great point, Sarah.
We talked last night about temperature, and I told Brenna that I read somewhere the ideal learning temperature is 11 degrees.
So like
Quite alert.
that's quite cold.
It's quite cold. It's just meditation last night.
That's why apparently they designed Canberra to be where it is, because people would work harder. They were going to put it up in like mid North Coast New South Wales. Like, actually, no, they want to be too relaxed. Put it in the freezing cold attic.
The coldest part of the street.
Yeah.
I was seeing that it was just like Eurocentrism. It was sort of like, well, this is the nicest part.
I think sound plays a huge difference.
Yeah.
I can't get that green on my ear.
Oh yeah.
The inverter.
Thanks for pointing it out for you.
Every now and then I come to it and I just tell someone, it's an insect. So
Sorry, that was the build up, by the way. Not the build down.
Gemma?
Usually, I often teach classes at the end of the PDC, and coming into a classroom that has papers strewn everywhere and like half-empty coffee cups and a level of untidiness. As a teacher, I find it hard to teach it. I don't know if other people do.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, well, as we said before, we're wearing our learner's hat and our teacher's hat, and we're going to practice switching between the two now. I'd like to invite two people who'd like practice at writing on the board to step towards the board, please. They'll be our scribes for this next activity. And when we're teaching and when we're watching others use the board as well, we don't care about spelling. Don't self-correct, don't worry about it. The main thing is the learning. So we're not being critical of ourselves or of anyone else about spelling. We'd like to scribe. Yeah, Pickles, thank you. Yep, great. Grab a marker that you like, that's visible, that works. And Pickles, could you please write on your side of the board? You can if you want, or we can do it. Yeah, thanks. Chuck it back after. Could you please write teachers, and then we'll write our ideas under that. And then Nick, on your side, could you please write the heading learners? Learners. So considering what is a teacher's requirement for an effective teaching space? Teachers and learners need slightly different things, although there is overlap. But what are teachers really looking for? What do teachers benefit from? Engagement. Well, what's a
space to be able to move?
Yeah, there we go. We're looking for qualities of that teaching space. So enough room. Yeah. What else have we got?
Good view of all the participants.
Yeah.
Not, I'm not competing for sound quality.
So how can we say that concisely for people's quiet?
Good acoustics.
Acoustics.
No cute puppies.
So many here.
That was a serious one on the May PDC when Willow, the beagly looking thing, was a really young puppy. She was like walking and just okay. The meatless.
See, even the word puppy is distracting.
We're off on tangents.
Let alone the puppy.
All the stationery that you want.
Yeah, that's great.
And furniture.
Furniture, so enough seats for 30 people. Tables if they're necessary. What else might we want?
Running water.
Running water.
Like electrical systems if they're working.
Whiteboard, chalkboard, smartboard, electrical systems. Nick, if you want to jump in and start writing to help out people's a column next to hers for teachers, if you feel that that's needed.
Like a shared column?
Yeah, a shared column. You're welcome to do that. What else do teachers benefit from?
A clock.
Yes. Yes.
Clear entry and exit points.
Yeah.
The people coming in, they know if it's multiple building rooms that are being used, what the layout is.
Storage for items you want away from humans.
Yep, that's a big one.
I guess a private-ish place to go in between times to prepare or just take a breather.
Like an office space. Can be as simple as a table in the room. Wall space. Wall space.
I use mats a lot outside, so like light, easy foldable mats.
Mats.
Sitting on it.
Really easy way to create an outdoor classroom. Chuck a couple mats down and everyone's got a beautiful space. We use that a lot here at Fair Harbours.
I was saying for learners, comfortable chairs and tables.
Yeah.
Ergonomic stuff, things like that.
Yep, cushions. Yeah, so we can start thinking about what learners need. What's helping you to be comfortable, or what's niggling at you that isn't comfortable today?
Ergonomic chairs.
Ergonomic chairs. What was that one up here? Oh, the ghost. Yeah, it's Casper's left the building.
No distractions, whether it's noise, visual. Kids.
Teachers need tools if they're doing practical stuff. They're like an actual tool shed sometimes and loads of materials for building hempcrete or whatever. You need to have all your resources lined up and spaced out when you really need them for them.
Yeah, that's great.
I wouldn't say a good shaded tree. Because when it was 45 degrees in here, it was unbearable, and we went out there and it was still...
It's bearable.
Yeah.
Just.
Can't go past it.
A make or break for me as a teacher is having the host organisation and the people fronting it be not just supportive but enthusiastic to be on board, to have it happen. We're not just, you can use the space, but we want you there. That makes a tangible difference.
Yeah, important point, Kath. Thank you.
So enthusiasm from...
Doesn't have to be enthusiasm, but it does have to be enough so that they will actively prevent any conflicts of use of the space. and hopefully will promote the course or the event with their people.
I suppose following on from that, so I think you've got to have the keys to the door. We asked it for the staff.
Yes.
All of the staff.
Yeah, maybe.
The Google control of the space.
Yeah.
Toilets are useful.
Yes.
No, just for you.
I keep thinking about food.
Just have lunch.
Locally grown, organic, tasty food.
And so
Now we're all hungry.
when we ran this course in Queensland last, there was a suggestion that students would organise their own morning tea, afternoon tea and lunch. It was a non-residential course. And Ro is very firm that people learn well when they're fed well. And lunch and morning and afternoon tea doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be a bit of good sourdough and a few bits and pieces. It doesn't have to be very expensive, but it does need to be there. It's a great point.
I think it has to be congruent too. I went to a course recently where it was all about nutrition farming, and we had donuts and muffins and cookies, and it was like a real disparity. It's like, wait, you're not practicing what you preach.
And in PDCs, that's very important. If we're talking about ethics, we're talking about food systems. How embarrassing for the cook if they're not on board with that and weren't briefed about that beforehand. So really finding someone who's excited about those food ethics adds to the course immensely.
I had a comment for the teachers' needs, and this sort of is an extension on like having a retreat space or somewhere for you to go away to, some kind of team support with the other teachers, especially in a retreat setting where, if something funky happens in the day, you can all get together and chat about it and just support each other as teachers.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, team support, I guess, if you're working in a team.
What else? Let's hear a few more for learners. What about a space helps a learner's experience?
Visual aids.
Yeah?
Posters. Pictures. Words.
Somewhere to put this stuff.
Yep.
Like softness too, those spaces and it's all desks and it feels like a business office, like
Sterile.
Yeah, whereas somewhere that feels a bit soft.
Wood.
Yeah. Nothing light.
Yeah, it's big.
Accessible.
Accessible, thanks, Ollie. An organised teacher. Uh-oh.
I think there's quite a bit of stuff on the teacher side, unless it's already been moved over for learners. And that's enough seats and tables, resources.
The variety, like the moving around.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And opportunity for whole group, large group work, small group work.
Yes.
Meeting each other in different sort of groups and in different ways.
Can be useful to have a covered outdoor area for messy activities. One we haven't mentioned, what have we got happening here? Yeah, a library. Also for teachers, what have we got up here? Yep, that's useful. Great. One more for learners.
I was once on a PTC where someone had the request for having learning outcomes given to them based on their learning style. And I thought it was great. The teachers were like, yep, we'll get them appointment. So different personalised, perhaps things that you're going to need that day. Maybe it's a notepad, maybe it's a smart device or something.
Yeah.
So like flexibility towards personal.
Sorry, that was a really long one.
I was just thinking like if I wrote down it's like personal needs.
Yeah, like your own personal learning resource. Sign up.
Being flexible to like incorporate those.
But how about, I guess how does that apply to our space? It's
Know what you need to bring that won't be supplied
yeah,
in the space.
yeah, great.
Knowing, for example, whether I, as a participant, need to bring paper, pens, clipboard, or whether I'm told, don't worry about bringing any of that, we will give you.
Yeah.
That's part of setting the space.
Yeah. It also is easy to forget having things like those if you don't have an office or a desk or some sort of place to get physically organised. And if there's no printer, it's hard to create those things as well. So I would put printer up there. Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Tamara. So with this in mind, there's a great list. Yeah, oh gosh, it's just such a dream to work with places like that. What was that? Internet connection. Yeah. Good helper. And a closet to keep them in. Also, specifically thinking about PDCs, having a sandpit is really useful. Having a garden that you can do things in that isn't super precious. This place has 3 sandpits. I know them all very well. We said undercover outdoor space, but even somewhere kind of messy like a shed or a workshop can be really useful. They're all things that you don't require, but you appreciate when they're around. Yeah, for specific courses. Thanks to our 2 scribes, that was wonderful. Do we have one more peep of an idea here before they retire for the day? Did I hear something over here? No, we're all good? Anyone else?
Practical examples always help.
Oh, was Amy. Practical examples. All right, we'll pop that up. That's fantastic. Great way to end this.
Here's my 5 acres I've prepared before.
And we'll give Pickles and Nick an applause for their fantastic job scribing. Thank you, that was wonderful. We'll take a picture of this, as we always do, before erasing it. Really great practice, always check in, especially if you're co-teaching with somebody and you've got to clear the board. Getting in that habit of saying, is there a photo of this, or just taking one yourself before you clear the whiteboard will avoid much heartbreak and sorrow. So we've got a couple of lists here. How else could we have got to this point in the session with this amount of information on a whiteboard?
What do you mean, other than scribing?
Other than group discussion and scribing.
This is what we need, ABC, write it down, here you go.
Yep. Teacher could have told us.
So I call it a triad, where you have groups of 3. Everyone writes down their ideas first in their little section, and then they come to some agreement on, say, the top 5, put the top 5 in the middle, and then you feed that through others opposed to yours.
Yeah, beautiful example, Shani.
I just do post-it notes. Everybody has a post-it note, just puts them up there.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had pictures, and people could have, depending on the level of your teaching, but pictures of different classrooms, people could circle what they thought was most important.
Yeah.
Cards are good. Permaculture cards come up a lot.
Yeah.
Pictures of resources.
Yeah.
Connections.
Or you could design your own room
Ooh.
with 3D modelling, couldn't you? Like, here, design them strips with your plasticine and...
We could all permablitz the shed and turn it into our dream classroom over there.
I know so many people who've done their PDC presentation as a teaching space.
Mm.
Being focused on new teachers down the track.
Interesting.
Property assessment might be to teaching space included.
So the goal of this exercise is to have people share and feel heard, and to get that knowledge out of the room in a way that's slightly more conducive to learning than some of the other alternatives might be, like teacher just telling us, receiving it on a handout. And there are many ways to do that effectively, like we heard here. So there's no right or wrong way to teach any such subject, but if there's a lot of information coming out, you'd be thinking with your teaching hat on, what's one of the more effective ways to try this? And trying things out in classes, some groups will work brilliantly, some groups less well. It's through that experience that you find out what works best for each topic and also the learning outcomes that you're looking for. So we've unpacked a few examples of what teachers and learners need. And the invitation now is we've got till just after 2 o'clock to design our own ideal teaching space. So this is your opportunity to imagine you've got everything you've ever needed, all the resources, all the finances, and you're going to design it with everything that you would like as a teacher, considering the people that you're thinking about teaching for. So if it's retro suburbia group, if it's young people in suburbia, if it's out bush, who are you going to be teaching for and what would be useful for them as well? And there's paper and pens and pencils up the back there. We'll pop on some music and I'll give you a call 5 minutes before we're wrapping up, just so you know. And then we're going to share together as pairs and then hear from a few people as a whole group as well. And the invitation is, if you would like to, in afternoon tea, we can stick our dream teaching spaces up on the wall, because I guarantee you there are some things that you've thought up that other people want to borrow from as well. Any questions about this activity?
How long is it?
I'll say till 2:05. Yeah. Yes, you're drawing an absolute dream teaching space, and you can look up here for a bit of inspiration. Thinking about ideal world, what would make your teaching experience the best it can be?
Have a chat with the person next to you about what your dream teaching space is starting to look like.
Oh, because I partnered with Megan, and I really loved that about her design. Was she thought about accessibility? Number one, like how do you get there, and can everyone access the room effectively? And that was integral to the space. That was the groundwork to build on. That was really good. Because they're saying I just made it like a clubhouse and it was lovely, but to have to thought about when anyone could get in it. So important.
I was just going to make the point that sometimes with access, both physical access and learning access, we sometimes assume things. So I'll never forget, I had wheelchair access. So I always rate what teaching and learning adjustments do I need to make for you, or do I need to make any? So this guy said, yeah, I'm in a wheelchair. So in a wheelchair, in a wheelchair, in a wheelchair, in a wheelchair are very different things. So I rang him and I said, what's your state? And he said, don't worry about it. And I said, do you need, ramp or whatever, because it's just got stairs coming up? He goes, no worries. So we get there on the first night. He flops on the ground, picks his wheelchair up and puts it on his shoulder and bunny hops himself up. And I learnt this huge lesson about not assuming anything. At that point. So to do that, that's just how he wanted to do it. He preferred, the next time that we went to an outing and there was a ramp there, he refused to use the ramp. Because he wants to make, to make that point. So just, just don't panic necessarily, but speak to the people who might need that access and what it is that they actually need.
Thanks, Shani. And about doing what you can to, you don't always have control over the space, and there may well be some limitations for some people, and that's unfortunate, but we always try to do better. We're not always going to be perfect. Another comment from over here?
I love seeing Wayne's, his was more conceptual, you know, very clear entrance, you know, so that people walk up and I suppose, yeah, feel safe because they, oh yeah, I can clearly see. There's nothing worse when you rock up somewhere like, where the hell do I go? Which would probably be my priority right now. So, yeah, no, good discussions. We won't really stop.
Was the information on the board useful in carrying out this exercise? Anyone refer to this?
Yeah.
So what's an observation with our teaching hats on about the interplay between this exercise of drawing our space and the exercise before of gathering some of the learnings from the class? What's the link between those two?
Well, I use quite a few of those ideas, things that I might not have thought of if we hadn't done the brainstorming beforehand. PowerPoints and tabs and practical units, natural light.
Kind of front loading the wisdom of the group for their personal work afterwards. It's helpful in lots of ways.
So it's that style of teaching where you're actually equipping the group with the necessary resources and ideas first before throwing them into an activity. Where if we didn't do that first, we'd go, oh, draw a couple of things and then feel like, oh, that was missed out on all this information that we put in there because we didn't have it in the first place.
Yeah, so setting people up as learners to succeed in their learning and encouraging autonomy in that learning as well.
There was a really good exercise that Dan Palmer took us through in the advanced course, which was a design process where he gave us the outline of the site and said, this is roughly what we're going to achieve. But only gave us one step at a time and said, allocate an area to the wicking beds, which we did, and now allocate space to the greenhouse, which we did then. Now allocate space to the compost heap, now allocate space to the rainwater tank, now allocate space to this and this and this. And you realise that even though you've been given the dimensions of all of those things in advance, it got increasingly complex because you were trying to do it one bit at a time without having a whole design and starting from all of the bits at once and pushing them around in that space. So there's a few different ways of going about designing that space. So I think what we've done there, by having that list in advance, made it a lot easier because having gone through that list, I largely disregarded it because I knew there were not going to be any surprises with what I was starting to draft out at the conceptual level.
Excellent.
It's a good scaffold, isn't it, too? We don't know anything about it. But if you don't, if your students don't know anything, you at least give them the scaffold of some idea.
Yeah. And we're all at different places on the journey, so some people have lots of ideas and lots to contribute on any one topic, and other people can be carried along by that. So always creating space to see what's in the room and how can we all kind of learn from it and move forward as a group. So the invitation is in afternoon tea. If you'd like to put your design up, we might pop them behind the couch there, all kind of clumped together on that wall, being mindful of wall space here. And then you're welcome to look through them. I gained so much from talking to tomorrow. I forgot a bathroom. You thought the kitchen was bad. I didn't even put toilets on my design. Doing all the details and thinking about wall space. It's not part of this session, but also I'd encourage you during this course, but also as you're teaching, to think about what is useful to have. It's an interesting experience guest teaching on somebody else's PDC or coming in as a guest teacher on someone else's course, and some things that you take absolutely for granted that they will be there sometimes aren't. Things like a projector, a garden on a permaculture course. Sometimes you're asked to teach something quite specific that maybe needs scale rulers or something. They might not have scale rulers. They run the course all the time, you'd assume they would, but maybe their other teacher normally brings them in. So having that checklist so that you can ask those questions beforehand is really valuable, and keeping that checklist updated so you don't forget the same thing more than once, teaching from experience. So we're going to move forward into a talk from Teaching Spaces into a focus on teaching styles. And we'll go deeper into what makes us an effective teacher in day 3. But we're going to take that now in this session. So teaching styles are varied. There's no good or bad teaching styles. They are appropriate based on the learning outcomes that we're trying to work towards and the context. And a teacher's style is formed from many factors, including their personality, how they've been taught in the past, their other learning experiences and education experiences. It can be to do with the methods that they have available, the teaching tools they have available to them. It's quite easy to go out and do a practical demonstration of pruning when you've got some of the tools, and you'll have to change your teaching methods and potentially style if you don't have those tools available. Maybe you'll use a worksheet or a PowerPoint that's showing that information instead. So there's a lot of things that contribute. Our styles as teachers aren't our personality, and they do change depending on what we're teaching, where we're at in our lives, and what we have available to us. It also depends, the style that we use, depends on the lens through which we view teaching. So our view on the value of teachers and the role that they play in the class or the workshop or the environment that we're involved in. So a lot of stuff comes to inform our teaching styles and the teaching styles of all of those around us. The main thing is that as teachers, we're improving all the time. And so step 1 coming to this course is great. Everyone's winning at that already. We're trying to become the best teachers that we can be. The other main point is that in this course, we focus on teaching styles that involve and centre around learners. Teaching styles that involve and centre around learners. The flip side of that is some people think about teaching styles that involve and centre around teachers. Sometimes that's appropriate. This course isn't holding that focus. So, Pickles, is that piece of paper that was on the board, would you be able to put that down for us, please? You can see the text there that's pointing to that top cup. Can you see tomorrow? Are you comfortable reading out what it says for us?
The top says underneath empty cup, and it says PowerPoint, instructional videos, lecture, arrow pointing to empty cup.
So this is an example of a teaching style, viewing the learner as an empty cup that's there to be filled with all the knowledge that the teacher has. And we've heard some of the examples of the way teachers with this teaching style would teach. PowerPoint, instructional videos, lecture. There are lots of other ways. Obviously, you can have a different teaching style and use those methods as well. But these are some really common examples. And then what have we got down the bottom there tomorrow?
We have rich soup. It is called participatory discovery, and inside of rich soup is learner-centered, demonstrate and do, understanding by design, values, ability to think and solve.
So a rich soup, seeing our class and the learners within that as having knowledge already and having so much to contribute. Who's experienced these two different styles before? Yeah. Which one did, or both, did you experience on your PDC if you've done a PDC? Yeah? Both?
I love listening to Jeff Nugent's Bill Mollison Empty Cup PDC from 1983. There wasn't any participatory activities there was lots of chalk and talk.
Yes.
No chalk even.
It's just all chalk. the original sage on the stage. And Mollison is incredibly good at talking for long periods of time and keeping people engaged. He was a natural storyteller and one of those very rare personalities. Yeah, very rare personalities who can pull that off. Most people would possibly contribute more to learning through different, using a variety of teaching methods, and that's what we're practicing on this course. But he was very good at talking in a way that people liked. As to his actual views on the students, he didn't necessarily fully believe that students were an empty cup, but the other parts of his experience, his views on what a teacher is, they're all informing his teaching style. It's not just the way we view learners or view, what should be done. With the empty cup teaching style, thinking about times in our lives when we've seen that teaching style and we've experienced that as teachers or as learners, how effective is that style in contributing to learning?
Dog shit.
I guess
Can you expand?
I dropped out of uni because of it. Like I tried to engage with content that wasn't like necessarily beyond me or anything like that, but was being delivered just the most. Well, here's how it goes, and so take this down, and the example here. And like the participatory part of this in particular, I don't know, it was like organic chemistry.
Yeah.
Then the participatory part is, so we take this crystalline substance and you do like a whole bunch of stuff with it. And you end up with another crystalline substance. And the computer readout tells you whether or not you did it right. And it's like, I respect it. It's like a worthwhile thing, but it's not kind of disrespect to the field of organic chemistry. But it didn't have anything. It was not good.
Someone else have a similar experience?
Oh yeah, overhead projectors, light club, and we sleep 10. Yeah. Front room, middle of the room, still awesome.
I think it depends a lot on what's being conveyed and the duration of the session as well. Like, if somebody asks a question, they're like, "Oh, I'm an empty cup of this." Like if it's a short thing, then that's probably could well be appropriate for that context.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's the shorter the workshop. Not even though, I mean, it depends on the context as well and what people's expectations are. But often, the longer an experience, the more important it is to teach the different learning styles and really mix it up. Because honestly, I don't know how those people sat and listened to Bill for 3 whole weeks in a chair, as engaging as he is. So yeah, great point, Jasper. Thanks for bringing that up.
I guess no matter how interesting someone is, that our cups are only so big. Like, you can absorb a certain amount of information before you're overwhelmed or the sponge is full and you need to go squeeze it out. So having a mixture of styles is probably a valuable thing. Because you've got content and that's valuable. So in a way, we are empty cups needing to be filled to an extent, but then we have to synthesise that somehow. Then going and doing something like an energizer or participatory thing or discussing and solidifying that is where the learning comes from, I suppose.
To extend that analogy, it puts a whole lot of maybe smaller cups in front of us so that each of those can be filled in different ways that reinforce and make, well, a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
And then we're really fed. We haven't just been given bread.
Oh, wow. So, things that we do on this course, that we model and that we talk about, are based on evidence, and the evidence shows that even if a learner is enjoying the experience of being treated like an empty cup, the actual learning taking place isn't as much as if the learner is being treated like a rich soup. And we dive into how to do each of these later on in the course. But the evidence shows that as we walk out of that room, 90% of what we just thought we learned on our PDC will be gone from our heads unless we've been taught with a variety of teaching styles and and methods and tools. So it's not that one style is good or bad, like Jasper said, it's about context, it's about the length, it's about what people are actually there to learn, but one is more flexible as far as learning goes and has been proven to be more effective in most scenarios.
I just thought of a thing about the empty cup as well. To be receptive, you need to trust the teacher as the one that's giving the right information. If you're just going to like allow it to be poured in because it's not a dialogue, it's not a conversation, you're not that involved in the exchange. So like that could be pretty ineffective if you're like, oh, I'm not sure about the information that's coming through, but I don't have the opportunity to be involved in the exchange.
So, I'm going to pass these around in a second. Before I do, I'll explain what they are. It's a sheet of paper with a few different teaching styles on here. You're welcome to consult with your neighbour about it and read it together if reading's not your thing. There's quite a bit of text here. The invitation is to have a look at it by yourself or with your neighbour and then have a chat with them about what teaching style you resonate with the most. And again, I'll stress, different teaching styles have their place for different contexts. So your experience might have been as a learner, experiencing one sort of teaching style from teachers in your life. It might also be as a teacher, giving a teaching style in certain narrow contexts throughout your life. Or maybe you've experienced a whole bunch of contexts, a whole bunch of teaching styles. It's all great. There's no good or bad teaching style. We'll have about 5 minutes to have a look and have a chat. And then we'll wrap up before afternoon tea. Have a chat with the person next to you once you've read through.
We're asked what to sing.
Fascinating discussion. What else did you read in here? What takeaways do we have from that? Something over here?
I think they're all pretty good to have. Trying to figure out what your strong or weak in is kind of cool. But I was also thinking about just then, discussing that we all kind of use all of them. We kind of start off with one, and you go through that and you demonstrate, and then you become more of a facilitator, and then you give it to the student or whatever you delegate to the student to write for themselves again. So.
As the group matures, they can adopt different patterns.
Balanced group over here. Apologies.
Just got a job.
Oh, congratulations. Is it paid? Well, I bloody hope so.
Charles and I was talking about wasting our time in university when we could have just done like carpentry or welding. That was basically our conversation. We wish that we were like carpenters or welders.
What are we going to discuss?
But there's a place for all of them in different circumstances, but not just one. And it probably depends on the circumstances. And we thought that what you were doing by planting an idea, letting everybody talk and discuss, and then rounding it up is more facilitating. But if you were teaching more specific content, things that you knew and we don't, then there'd be more of a role for talking and sharing your knowledge. In schools there's a buzzword, I do, we do, you do. So the teacher talks and tells and shows, and then does whatever the activity is with the children, and then steps back and gives them another task, a related task to do on their own. So it's
sort of withdrawing that scaffolding and support.
Yeah, we do.
And then, so at our school, we actually often then flip that around completely the other way. And so you go more in facilitator style and you do first, and then that's a form of formative assessment that you see, what do they actually know? And what misunderstandings do they have? And then end up doing more of your lecturing bit after you've seen how they go, because often where they'll teach each other things much more than what you could.
Yes, they do, definitely. You have to have a safe environment so they're happy to try something that they don't know about and make all the mistakes.
Yes.
I think it had a lot to do with the learning style too, because like some of these privilege, like for example, lecture style privilege is something that's auditory learning. So that if you're teaching doing like to learn by listening, you're really doing by doing, because they're not, it's really quite fun.
And also people who are comfortable with that style, as we heard from people before, not everybody is. So it can lead to shut down if we're not careful. We had an interesting discussion about a few points, but one that I wanted to reiterate was sometimes as teachers we can get stuck in one style. And this is an interesting exercise that it shows us our style is not who we are. We can actually step outside of that. I'm sure we all know people who are maybe stuck in their style, and that's not a life sentence. They can change, we can grow, so always just aiming to do our best. I'd like to hear a couple more interesting points from that discussion. What else came up for your group?
I just wanted to add to that when I did my PTT here, we had 8 to 10 teachers, and I really enjoyed the breadth of teaching styles. Like some were really like left brain, logical, linear, a lot of dense information and lecturing style, and some were pretty right brain and like a lot more kind of chaos and emotional and not emotional but relation based and creative, and it really worked for me to have lots of different ways of learning, because I'm a pretty flexible learner, and my brain didn't get bored. If the whole thing had been one person, it maybe would have been too overwhelming, and that it's an advantage of collaborating with other teachers is that you get different styles.
Get that smorgasbord happening. Right?
Well, we touched on a little bit. The smorgasbord, wonderful, and where you Mark talked about is but still having that golden thread, being able to tie all these amazing disparate bits together somehow.
Has to.
What's that?
Has to. I found it interesting reading this and seeing the pros and cons of each kind, because it's very easy to stereotype the lecture style as bad and to say, oh, we need to leave it behind, without realising that there are strengths of it. But also to notice that I've progressed along the continuum and that I'm welcoming the newer things, the things that are newer to the way I'm doing them, but not wanting to lose the advantages of the other. Beautiful point to end on, Kath, thank you. So we'll close this session now. It's afternoon tea time. Take it a couple of minutes for afternoon tea.